welcome to the second episode of Comic Dividers. Iders. We're just three guys who live and work in a comic shop who just want to bring you the exotic sounds of heavy-set man-children shouting about how mad they are about made-up stories. We're talking current books, getting distracted onto back issues, and spoilers abound, so be warned. And when I say spoilers abound, I mean it. There will be spoilers for your favorite comic books. Unless they're not your favorite comic books. That's up to you to decide, really. We're your hosts, the Comic Dividers. To my right, Silktoberfest, a.k.a. Alex, the young buck with the most to prove. Also, happy birthday, loser.
No. No.
Got him.
To my left, our personal back issue library, Johnny Daltz.
What's up?
I'm shocked you didn't tell me not to call you Johnny. I was really banking on that. How many books you read today alone? You human computer, you.
Fuck. I mean,
Computer.
I read the
Pretty
Matt
lightly.
Fraction Fantastic Four run. After it, at long last. I read that.
Well,
How long did it
Irony?
take you to read that entire omnibus, John?
I don't know. I woke up at like 11. I was watching some hockey, and in between, I don't know, probably 4 hours.
You're a monster.
I read a lot of books, man. I read a lot of comics.
It took me 4 hours
Sure.
to read Avengers issue 1.
Dude, I read every single book that comes out every single Tuesday, in between the hours of 9:30 and midnight.
And last and least, myself, Spuds McGee, the charisma. Because that's the only thing I can bring to the table since I don't actually read comic books.
And you do spell charisma with a K.
The H is still there. It's very confusing.
So welcome to the second episode of Comic Dividers, as I aforementioned. That was our long intro, and if you didn't like it, I'm very sorry. I worked very hard on it. I actually wrote it out.
You wrote it like 2 minutes before we started recording.
So welcome to what is basically our own personal treehouse, and I say that because we literally just traded comic books to read before recording this episode, much like children in a treehouse.
That is actually completely true. That is
Except
not
this treehouse
even...
costs way more than it should have.
Well, you're overpaying.
I mean, depends on the treehouse, really.
The tree's rotting, John.
All right.
It's falling over.
We need to get to comics, man.
All right, so where should we start first? How about we start with a good old-fashioned Avengers book, because I already said it.
I mean, more to the point, we should start off with a number one.
So this week we're going to be talking about Avengers #1 by Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness. Next up we'll have DC Nation #0, the old 25 center with the preludes to some of the big stories coming out, the Bat and Cat Wedding, No Justice, and Brian Michael Bendis' threatening Man of Steel.
How about No Justice, though, dude?
No Justice.
Justice.
We'll get to No Justice.
My
John.
God.
Next up on the list, Rick Remender's newest book, Death or Glory. And last but certainly not least, Hunt for Wolverine #1, written by Charles Soule and art by Steve McNiven.
Somehow John remembered that even though we don't have the book in front of us, because John has everything kept in his brain like a computer, like I said.
He's like a Barbara Gordon,
I'm the Oracle of comics.
the Oracle of Comics. That is apt. So let's
with
get
the
into
looks
this
of
big.
calculator.
Let's
Well,
get into
you
this.
know. Dude, I really want to get one of those shirts that just has like the giant number buttons on it. I want them so bad.
I'll see what I can find. So we're gonna start off this week with Avengers #1.
Jason
John.
Aaron.
Jason Aaron. What'd you think, John?
I mean, finally, Jason Aaron gets the chance to follow up with the Legacy #1.
The Legacy #1 that I was like sure was gonna be like a new monthly series, but was actually just a one shot and surprised
It
everyone.
is a new monthly series. It's called Avengers.
It took
It's right
a
here.
It took a year to go
Yes.
from Legacy #1 to Avengers #1.
I will bet you hard actual currency that the reason why it took a year between Legacy #1 and Avengers #1 is because Brian Michael Bendis left Marvel.
Brian Michael
Probably.
Bendis, if that's actually true, let us know.
Supposed to fight you in the squared circle.
That's not until later.
We'll get to the squared circle later.
But
Anyway.
at any rate, like, you get the formation of a new team of Avengers. Also, he explores the, like, weird Odin Phoenix love affair. And, like, you know...
I really like the old, like, not prehistoric, but like,
It is prehistoric.
well, yeah, prehistoric, like group of heroes that were just like the ones before it, like Starbrand, like who the
Hulk
fuck's heard of
Starbrand? Red Hulk Starbrand?
Red Hulk Starbrand for no reason. Agamotto himself's there. Some Iron Fist, the first Iron Fist, presumably.
One can only assume. But,
Presumably.
you know, who
Some
knows?
caveman.
A caveman who's inherited the spirit of vengeance, and his vehicle is a mammoth.
Which is awesome.
Amazing.
Giant flaming woolly mammoth is the best Ghost Rider.
And then, of course, Black Panther and Odin and Phoenix and all that. And it's great, because it just starts with Odin's like, we're gonna fucking die, let's drink.
Which is true, you
yeah.
know, like father, like son.
And then it cuts, like, thousands of years in the future, when Odinson, now Thor again, with Cap and Cap and Iron Man, there it is, all meeting in like a private bar to talk about the good old days, and Thor is just so willing to throw down.
One beer, one mead, and one Shirley Temple.
Fucking Shirley Temple, dude.
Ah.
Jesus Christ.
Look, my favorite Iron Man moment of all time. It's still the moment when Iron Man comes down and is like, "Yo, we need to do this Civil War bullshit. Here's me taking off my mask first. My name is Tony Stark, and I'm an alcoholic." That's still my favorite moment of all time. It was so poignant for me when I was a child, and I don't remember why.
The weirdest part about that is, like, as an aside, like, in Civil War II, one of the only good moments is the Captain Marvel, like Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel, and Tony Stark meet up at an Alcoholic Anonymous meeting.
Yeah.
Like, while they're butting heads over, you know, like, universe-shattering stuff, like, they both go to their AA meetings, and, like, have a conversation. It's the slowest moment in the entirety of that crossover. And it is absolutely stellar. Like, that is the moment that pops out of all of it. But at any rate, we're talking about Avengers #1, which also has some amazing, like, cave spelunking with Doctor Strange and Black Panther. It has...
Yo, he's got those cool flashlight eyes, which I love. Black Panther, he's got flashlight eyes.
I mean, hey, dude, he's from
when-
Wakanda, man. Like, the very first thing he did was
When you're
invent
the
flashlight
king
eyes.
of a country that is now on the moon, I believe.
It's more than the moon. Like, the stuff from Panther coming out is like the intergalactic colonization of Wakanda. Like, Wakanda is going to be the first intergalactic Earth civilization. Like,
I
are you
mean-
aware of how fucking rad that is?
If any civilization on the Marvel Earth had to be the first to colonize outside of Earth, it's definitely Wakanda.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you either have them or you have, like, you know, the fucking X-Men. But, like, honestly, they live in
they get
West
an
Chester.
island every once
They've
in a
been
while.
literally living in suburban Connecticut for 50 years, and they've done nothing. Except for occasionally move to San Francisco.
No. Some of them are living in Canada.
One.
One of
Literally
them is-
one.
Yeah, but it's like one of the biggest ones. So
Oh,
let's-
1.5.
I mean, and he's been dead for 2 years.
Not anymore. We'll get to that later, though.
Spoilers!
This lineup for Avengers is really sweet because it's just the classic Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America.
Marvel's Holy Trinity.
But they bring on She-Hulk, they bring on Robbie Ray as
Yo.
Ghost Rider, they bring on Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel.
Side note about She-Hulk, not nearly enough She-Hulk in this issue. And I know that everyone knows that's what I was
Dude,
going to
as
say.
soon as I finished the issue, I knew you were going to say that.
What? You know? All right, look. All right, She-Hulk's not even in this. Jennifer Walters is in this, and, like, you get a glimpse of She-Hulk when she turns around and she, like, shoos off a cat collar harassing her.
That was a little more than a cat collar. That dude was super persistent. And
Okay, well, I don't know
she
the
should have laid him down
technical term.
flat on the street.
Dude, she's
But
a
that's
Hulk.
beside
She
the-
would have turned him into paste.
More than his pace, he would have become the street.
Like,
Like,
I'm saying. They would have melded molecules.
Well, at least the New York street would probably smell a little bit better.
So, see? Look at all this. Cave spelunking.
He was looking at the cave spelunk.
I was looking at the cave spelunking. Sorry, I'm really trying to not use the word spelunking anymore, and it's really hard. The Jen Walters stuff was okay, and it's nice to see that character transition from this, like, current She-Hulk run,
Yeah.
and actually become viable in, like, an actual environment. Same way with Strange, with, like, the death of magic and all this other kind of ridiculous nonsense.
which they mention in here, which
Yeah.
is like the whole catalyst for whatever's buried
Yeah, the
underneath
seals
the
of
outskirts of
Agamotto
Wakanda.
break. Yeah, all of that stuff is, like, super interesting. And, like, if there's one thing that I absolutely trust Jason Aaron to do, it's tie all of these things together And it's made doubly easier because he's written almost all of them. Thor now
still
has
writing
his
Thor.
but now has his fake arm.
Yeah.
Like, you remember when they teleported in the future and he was wearing a destroyer arm and everybody was like, yeah, so what's the deal here with Gore the God Butcher?
No, because I didn't read that.
Dude, it's the best Thor run that is in existence. Walt Simonson be damned. And I love me some Beta Ray Bill. But
Beta
Jason
Ray
Aaron's-
Bill.
You hear that, Walt Simonson? John's gonna fight you Sunday night in the squared circle.
Dude, I love Beta Ray Bill. Walt Simonson I'm a little more iffy about. But Jason Aaron's run on Thor is a thing to be marveled. So to
Seriously.
speak.
I haven't read any of the older stuff, but when Jane Foster came in and that, I started picking it up because I thought it was a great entry point, and it was phenomenal. That first 8 issues before Secret Wars was great because it just shows Thor being like, not even just accepting humility and accepting that. He's just getting it beat into his face, and he's just like, all right, I understand this, and he just passes on the mantle.
Also, one of the best parts of Jason Aaron's Thor run is that he has such a consistent art style behind him. Like, the Gore the God Butcher stuff is all one artist. The Jane Foster Thor stuff is all one artist, and they're both absolutely perfect for their respective
I
subject
love
matter.
the design of the Jane
The
Foster
thing
Thor.
that worries me here is that Ed McGuinness hasn't stayed more than 5 issues on anything since Batman and Superman. Like, literally, has not stayed more than 5 issues. He did X Sanction, and 4 issues were too much for him.
Isn't he doing stuff with Deadpool right now?
I mean, he was.
Or
one
am I
of the-
thinking
Everyone
the
doing
other
something
writer?
with Deadpool right now because there's like 80 Deadpool books.
No. They killed like most of them.
Dude,
There's
first
only like
off,
2.
in You Are Deadpool, the like choose your own
Oh,
adventure
God,
one.
that's
I don't know
right.
if you got that, but Kieran Gillen stabs Deadpool to death with a ham sandwich.
Yeah,
in
and
one
then
of the
Kieran
panels.
Gillen just shows
Oh.
up, and they choose your own adventure, and it's either he kills him or he just eats the sandwich, and it's great. I'm like,
I like the second option. Let's get sandwiches.
It was great, and then it's Deadpool with a like ham sandwich sticking out of his jugular,
and then Kieran Gillen
being
just rolling some
"Hey,
dice.
It's great.
I love Kieran Gillen.
But at any rate, we're not talking about that. We're talking about
Thank
consistency
God.
of artists. And, I mean, I absolutely love Ed McGuinness. Always have. He's got a great eye for the heroic, especially.
Mhm.
Although, occasionally, his, like, female form can be iffy. That being said, like, you know, you have Thor and Cap and Iron Man, so you got all these lantern jaws, like, bopping around. And, you know, like, he does shadow play really, really well.
Mhm.
So, like, Panther Ghost Rider opens up a whole mess of options, like, as far as, like, color panels and light play and all this other
Just got
stuff.
a fire from Ghost Rider. Yeah.
So, like, Jason Aaron can script a plot like nobody's business.
Oh my
Like,
God, I
Jason
love
Aaron
Jason
can tie
Aaron.
together absolutely anything. Like, you give him
if
a
that,
string the size of the world, and he will tie it together.
if,
but
if
I
that,
feel like that's not that hard, John, because you know you just tie off the middle section.
Well, thanks, Spuds, for ruining my awesome metaphor.
It was a bad metaphor, you know it.
It wasn't great.
Sorry.
But at
Zero
any
Zero.
rate, so, like, this did what I wanted out of an issue 1. Like, it sowed the seeds, and, you know, like, it brought all the stuff from Marvel Legacy 1
Finally.
finally, into current times. Like, none of this Secret Empire nonsense, none of the, like, any of that. Like,
They
everybody's
mention
just
it.
all, yeah, of course they did, because it's a big thing, and they mentioned, you know, the fact that Thor just got his arm burned off, and they mentioned the fact that Tony's been comatose.
Well, it's based on Marvel.
Tony
timelines.
was
That
really
probably
upset
happened,
about
like,
that comatose
what, like
thing.
a week ago.
Dude, I just have we figured out if Tony Stark has his actual hair back yet? Like, is he wearing hair eyebrows?
I mean,
Here?
it looks like a wig.
Because I mean, in the
how
most
can
recent
you-
Iron Man issue, he shows up to his birth mom, and then all his hair falls off because she's like, "Is this fake?" and straight rips his eyebrow off, and then all his like goatee and stuff falls out.
I mean, when you're
And
as
he's
rich,
like, "Yeah, I've been comatose and stuff, and things are weird."
when you're as rich
he
as
just has no body hair anymore?
when you're rich as Tony Stark, I think you can afford some really nice looking.
He's
body
not
hair.
rich anymore. Company had a hostile takeover. His birth mom lost the company. Mary Jane Watson porked it. But so, you know, like through many and various like Machiavellian moves, like Stark Industries is about to be hostilely taken over by like the Hood of all people and like some, you know, like tie wearing Jamo.
What do you have against ties, John?
They're for Jamo.
Oh. all right. Well, I just want to say a few points. One, Ghost Rider too edgy for me. I cut my thingy.
3 edgy for you.
I mean, I love Robbie Reyes. I haven't read any of
Two.
all the Ghost Rider, but I love him.
Two, the
Dude,
She-Hulk
the
run.
Tradmore Ghost Rider is I forget who was writing it actually. Now that I think about it, but like one of the pencilers
Take a minute.
that I absolutely know is Tradmore. And Tradmore was doing the pencils on that all-new Ghost Rider
Mhm.
run. Tradmore did Legacy of Luther Strode.
Oh yeah.
So it's like that insanely like stylized, hyper frenetic, like movement-based stuff. And with Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, it was all like ice cream flames and like, you know, insanely muscly guys like all over the place.
I gotta check that out.
It was
You
Felipe
really-
Smith, and that series was phenomenal.
All new Ghost Rider?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is
man.
coming from a guy who refuses to read Ghost Rider because I'm too good for Edge. Because I lived in the 90s. I don't need to go back to that.
I mean, that's well and good, but the Jason Aaron Ghost Rider run was awesome.
Okay, all right.
So, has anybody received any information as to why, like, Thor's hammer is gold now?
I don't
Like,
know. I
because
haven't.
this is
I
Big
haven't
Pimpin'
caught
Thor.
up on the end of the Death of the Mighty Thor. 'Cause I'm
I mean,
reading
I
it straight.
have, but like, I was just hoping that like you guys had received some sort of like instantaneous transmission because
No, I mean,
Insofar
Jason
as
Aaron and I
I
have a
know-
correspondence going, but he hasn't made his last chess move in like 2
So-
months.
all I know is that right, you haven't caught up with Death of Mighty Thor, but at the end of Death of Mighty Thor,
I can assume.
you know, he gets a like Pebble,
Mm-hmm.
Mjolnir or Mjolnir, depending on how you pronounce it.
Mjolnir. because I'm not a
Mjolnir.
Yeah,
Greek.
Mjolnir because
No,
you know,
no.
like that's how normal humans pronounce it.
Mjolnir. Midge.
So
The
he gets
hammer
a
of Midge.
pebble of Mjolnir, which he can barely lift
Mhm.
because he's still, you know,
He's still
ostensibly
unworthy.
unworthy. And then on the cover of previews, it's him like twirling all the hammers. So that leads me to believe that this Mjolnir is not the only Mjolnir. He's just making mad hammers. Thor is going hammer crazy.
He's got an interdimensional hammer that just transforms into every hammer, and it's like a Swiss Army hammer.
I
I
don't know
mean,
if we can do superpositioning
Swiss
hammers.
Army hammer.
I mean, we'll have to read the.
Just press a button and another hammer slides out.
Well, yeah, you know, you gotta have your wall hammer. You gotta have your mallet.
Well, I was hanging paintings, and then I needed to slay gods, so, you know. And
No,
I
you
just pressed this button, and it was all good.
You just use the same hammer for both.
That's how you destroy a wall.
Anyway, we'll have to figure that out in Thor #1 because that's where that promo art comes from.
I
Well,
know,
number
I know,
one,
I
in
know.
stores
But that's what I'm
whenever.
saying. Like,
Who knows?
this feels a little early to, like, debut Mjolnir and not mention it at all. And that seems kind of like a
maybe
weird
it'll
oversight
be
for Jason Aaron.
maybe you're using it as a big draw to find out because people who read Thor are going into this because I assume they love Jason Aaron, so they're gonna move to the Avengers too.
Everyone should love
And then-
Jason Aaron. I would
Everyone.
love Jason Aaron physically if he showed up.
I
In
mean,
the squared circle.
Dude, I'm not picking.
but I'm just saying, I think what their plan was to just like introduce it and like, whoa, what's going on? Because they dropped Avengers right after Infinity War, so people are getting hyped on that, like, what's going on? So they got to backtrack and like, it's not here, so they have to read what's coming out next to find out what's going on.
I mean, are you
Marketing.
saying that they're actually
Marketing.
coming out with more #1s? Dude.
Pick up Thor #1.
Alex just made the Home Alone shock face for all of you listening out there in Radioland.
But Avengers #1, I enjoyed it. I'm excited to read more, definitely.
Give me more She-Hulk.
Next up, we're gonna talk about DC Nation #0, the 25-cent prelude issues for 3 big stories coming up in DC.
Writers include
Writers are
Tom King, Brian Michael Bendis, and
Scott Snyder.
Scott Snyder.
artists include.
Dude.
you know what?
So let's talk about
If you
DC
haven't picked
Nation.
up DC Nation #0 for a quarter, you don't get to know who's doing all this.
More to the point, like, I don't think I've ever been so satisfied with a quarter purchase
Me too.
as with this thing. Like,
I don't know. I had a really
27
good
cents?
stick of gum the other day.
no, you didn't. It wasn't as
wasn't
good as
a
this
quarter.
one.
Who gets to tell me what kind of gum I had the other day?
I
Not you.
right
John.
now.
You're not my
in
gum
the
guy.
squared circle.
You ain't my gum lord. Anyways, let's start with the Joker one. Why not?
The Batman.
the Tom King Batman run one.
Save the worst for first.
I mean,
just kidding.
I-
It's only the
I
Joker
liked-
part that's the worst part.
I liked Tom King's Joker in this this run. The War of Jokes and Riddles didn't really feel entirely like him.
Really?
It was weird. That whole run was really weird to me. I only
Dude,
really like
you
the
need to
Kite
go
Man
back
one
and
shot.
read it in trade. I'm telling you, like reading.
I
it
did
monthly-
read it. I read it like the every 2 weeks run, which is tough. But
That's
that
what
Kite
I'm
Man
saying.
one shot was sweet.
The Kite Man, the Ballad of Kite Man.
The Ballad of Kite Man.
Yeah,
Unnecessarily sad and like
I'm telling you,
beautiful at the same time.
agreed. But Tom King just reads better in trade.
Yeah.
Like reading Vision singly
Oh,
is.
that hardcover is amazing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you devour that.
Oh my
like
God.
you sit
You're
down
right,
and
you're
you
right.
have a Thanksgiving meal out of Tom King books. So like,
I know what I'm doing
Batman
this year.
is-
Now I want Thanksgiving. Thanks, John.
well, you know.
Now you know what you're
Cranberry
thankful for.
sauce. So like when you read it singly, especially War of Jokes and Riddles, like it feels kind of staccato and like a little scattered. But if you
What's
sit
staccato
down, like
The staccato too.
awkwardly punctuated almost. It's a musical
awkwardly?
term. You people suck.
No, it's just
But at any rate, it can feel scattered. But if you sit down and you read it, like all at one shot, like just beginning, middle, end, it all blends. Like it is all really, really balanced, and it has that like Thanksgiving dinner bit in the middle
I'm
of
talking
it.
about dinner. I'm hungry again.
But at any rate, like all of that stuff, it really kind of blends together well. And the thing that I'm kind of worried about is that a moment like this, where you have, like 4 or 5 pages that appear in a 25-cent issue, those moments never appear in trades. Like
Nope.
you never get that like extra, like just bit, that extra flavor, that extra like condiment.
Seasoning. The word you're looking for is seasoning. It's the salt.
I mean, it's not. Salt's more important. This is like, this is more like cumin or like, paprika.
Are you
or
trying to
something.
tell me cumin ain't important, John? 'Cause
I
we're
am
about to have
I'm
words.
telling you
Oregano.
exactly. Cumin is not important.
Oregano. What the hell?
Cumin may be used to make your meal better,
I
like
put
almost
cumin
certainly. I may have,
I don't know.
but it is not necessary. Salt, pepper, things like that are necessary. Like your food tastes terrible without
Well,
it.
I disagree.
But like cumin just makes your food taste better if you like cumin.
I do like cumin.
Yeah,
Almost
that's
as much as I like this. It's 5 pages. Because let me preface. I hate the Joker. I think he's like the biggest loser of all time, and not like the fun, cold kind of loser. I think he's just like a nuisance to Batman that got blown way out of proportion. Like, and then there's some good stories written out of that. Sure, fine, whatever. We can talk about that till the cows come home. I don't really want to talk about the Joker, but I'm about to talk about the Joker because these 5 pages were flipping spectacular. There's just something because just the way Tom King writes suspense, like just the way how when he lays it out, and there's just like the panels that have no words on it, but like it says more than the next panel that has 20 words on it. Like I don't know how that's possible.
Tom King.
Good art probably, but like storyboarding is important, bro. Thank you, Tom King. You're the king of
Like-
my Tom.
Tom. I've read 3 things by Tom King so far. His Vision run, his Mr. Miracle run, and his current Batman stuff. And he's had different artists throughout each of, especially the Batman one. But like, the Vision artist, the Mr. Miracle artist, and even whoever's been doing Batman since Rebirth happening, currently Clayman. They all like work really well
Fighter
to
of
it.
the night.
They all work really well to adapt to how he structures his dialogue or not dialogue, but his
Narration.
narration. Tom King's narration is absolutely some of his best stuff. His dialogue can be hit or miss depending, but like his narration is where it gets it because with how he storyboards it and how he presents it in the narration little squares, it just sets up such an intense story. And I absolutely love it.
I'd argue that more than his like narrative voice, than his third-party voice, his pacing is where his strength always is. Mr. Miracle is the same way. Like all of those little boxes that always make you feel all super trapped, like all of those things are all kind of a very like concrete choice. Like they all move in a specific way, and I have I can only imagine, like given his body of work, that he is completely in charge of all of that. Like, here's the page. There are 16 panels on it. It looks like a jail cell. You know, like, here's the page. There are 9 panels on it. Last panel is fused. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I can only imagine that he does that specifically. Like, he is just a pacing nut. And it works because all of those things, like Spuds was saying, like, all of those things just add and release tension all the time. So you feel white-knuckled. You feel the anticipation of what's going to happen next. Or in the case of something like Mr. Miracle, you feel trapped because it's like, 15 exactly the same panels with like a kind of scattering dialogue. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what he does. It was the same way with Vision. Like,
Which is crazy
everything.
because I don't have any feeling, and I felt all those things.
See? So, after the Tom King Batman, short story, or Joker short story, let's call it spade a spade,
Mhm.
we get the very, very first incarnation, aside from, I guess, the weird Jim Lee penciled part in the Action Comics 1000,
Which-
Brian Michael Bendis's take on Superman.
Which, in my opinion, those two stories felt very different.
Right?
Like Brian Michael Bendis
I feel like a
is,
Batman and Superman story should feel different.
No,
you
the
lied.
Superman and Superman story.
Oh,
Like the Jim Lee Superman and the,
Clark,
whoever this is, Superman.
Well,
like,
it's
it felt
a
like-
Superman and it's a Clark Kent story. That's why.
No, they were both Superman at
This
that
is-
time.
No,
Maybe
this
Clark
is
Kent
very,
was
this is very
Alright,
much a Clark
alright,
Kent
alright,
story.
alright.
But
Fair
like,
enough.
look at how dialogue heavy it is. Like, this is Powers.
I hate reading, but I like reading this. I don't care.
Let me say
I don't
it.
care
Like,
who hears me. You hear that reading? I enjoyed you.
you don't know how to read. How did you do that?
You hear that reading? I had someone read it to me, and I wasn't bored.
So the Action Comics number 1000, Brian Michael Bendis issue for Man of Steel, and the 25 center DC Nation issue felt very different. One was Superman and one was Clark Kent, so they're definitely different stories. But I just felt like they were written completely different. Like,
Which that's what I like. Like I
Here's the
feel
thi-
like
but here's the-
Superman and Clark Kent should feel different because Superman is a shining beacon of hope, and Clark Kent is the most racist interpretation of humans that an alien can think of, where we're just all bumbling, clumsy idiots
I mean,
who happen to
he
do the
was
right
just a
thing
dude. He
sometimes.
was just a dude who grew up in Kansas.
The weird part about this to me is that there's like the Perry White characterization
Mhm.
is solid. Like
Yep.
Perry White as Chief is great. But
Somewhere between an asshole and concerned with the well-being of his
right,
people.
because he's running and also finally, like, they are acknowledging what Marvel did, 10 years ago, which is that newspapers are failing. Like, they're a failing medium.
Yep.
Like, the
Mhm.
Daily Planet is not going to have that super awesome Golden Globe on top of it forever. Like, people have invented the internet by now.
They sold that Golden Globe to keep the doors open.
Seriously, like, I can remember when Superman died and Jimmy Olsen was still using film in his camera. Like, what are you doing, Jimmy? Like, get it together.
Maybe he just really likes the look of film.
And it took until New 52 before they actually acknowledged the fact that, like, pictures were digital. And DC's always kind of been like that. More specifically, Superman and the Daily Planet, especially, has always been like that. They are just locked in,
Another
basically 1980s.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
With less cocaine.
the part...
Save about cooking.
Yeah, I mean,
I
Perry White, I feel like...
No. Superman like scanned everything. Everything's fine.
Yeah,
He's
no,
not
his
about to
heart is
die.
fine.
Your heart can be fine.
Superman can X-ray vision, yayo. Like, that's not how it works.
You think if you take a certain amount of drugs and Superman X-rays you, they mix weird in your system, and you just get like extra high off of that? Like,
Yeah, it's called Superman.
you just like take a
Dude, I'm on this Superman. It's crazy.
You just go to Metropolis, you take a bunch of drugs, you smash a window, and you hide in a trash can. Superman comes, he X-ray visions you get fucked up.
I think we discovered the newest drug sweeping the nation.
Right about that, Brian Michael Bendis.
Also,
I'd read that.
it's super weird that people other than Lex Luthor are wearing Lex Luthor's, like, apparently Super Friends era. armor?
Uh,
That's super weird.
Weird? No.
Let's,
Amazing.
let's
No,
face it. Let's
weird.
face it. Amazing.
Nope.
Super
Weird.
Friends is probably the last time Brian Michael Bendis even saw like a comic version of Lex Luthor. Come on.
There is no way that's happening. I mean, like, if there's one thing I am positive of, it's that Brian Michael Bendis went into Superman with full understanding of what he was trying to do and what the magnitude of his insertion into the DC universe represented. It's not like he's blindly, like, scumming around, like, bopping out stories in, like, Detective Comics or something. Like some weird ancillary thing. Like, they made full-page ass splash ads
The
that
threat.
just said Bendis is
It
coming.
doesn't matter because eventually Brian Mike Bendis is going to come and he's going to write The Return of Connor Hawk.
Connor Hawk's dead forever, and you know it. We'll get to that later. But
Connor Hawk is living
I just
forever
felt
in my heart.
the two issues just felt pretty drastically different, and I had a hard time getting into this one because even after I stopped focusing on like the Perry White monologue that went on for 4 out of the 5 pages. It just felt a little weird from the pacing we got in the Action Comics 1000 version. I don't know which one we're gonna see more of in his 6-issue.
I
Man
hope
of
it's
Steel run.
50-50.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
Like,
was
if
saying.
it's
Like, my
splitting-
general hope is that the like dialogue options of this and the like visual options of Action 1000 are two sides of the same coin, and
That'd be
that's
great.
what the series is.
That'd be
Like,
great.
that
I
would
would
be
absolutely
fantastic.
love that. But just seeing these two right now, I'm not sure because we don't have anything for Man of Steel yet. Once Man of Steel starts rolling out, it'll make more sense. But right now, I just am not sure if one was just like a fluff piece they made to like tag on the end of Action 1000, make it seem really interesting and people want to check it out, or if like this is what we're getting and the
No.
meat of Man of Steel.
I mean,
is just
the
gonna be
thing of
Perry
it
White
is that
screaming.
Bendis, when he's on, he can blow the kneecap off of anything. Like
That sounds dangerous.
Bendis
You
is
don't have kneecaps here, Bendis.
Bendis is spectacular when he is on and engrossed. And, like, you could just
hold on.
feel him, like, fade away in, like, post, what was the time-traveling Lightning Tiger X-Men title? Post Battle of the Atom. Like, you could just feel him just be like, yeah, and then, I don't know, like, Cyclops' dad shows up or something. I don't even care. Now he has an X-face. Go along.
Brian Michael Bendis, you have to put Captain Marvel in a book. I don't care who that is. I'll just write what the fuck ever I feel like, and then just like not.
When you're
understand.
Brian Michael Bendis,
Captain Marvel in her finest moments, or at least finest moments in the situation, because that was not Captain Marvel. That's another story.
What,
Anyway.
Alias, are you talking about?
No, Captain Marvel
Civil
in,
War II.
in Civil War 2.
Oh,
She felt
okay,
very out of
right,
character
Yeah,
in
it just
Civil War
wasn't.
II.
It was like with
No.
a few shining examples, like you said earlier. If you didn't listen earlier, how are you consuming podcasts? I don't understand. But when we're talking about that AA meeting, that was great. But the rest of it just like seemed so weird, especially towards the
if
end.
you just
Yeah.
focus mainly on like
Wholeheartedly agree.
the what was it, 8 issues with the 0? I don't remember. Like just the actual main series of Civil War and didn't read much of the tie-ins. It just felt very weird. And that's how they're gonna release it. They release it in trade. They just release the main story and then you get the tie-ins later. And if you're gonna make something so integral to the story that it doesn't make sense without it, it just feels weird.
It's not as though the story doesn't make sense. That's kind of...
I'm not talking about like that, but it's just I feel like Civil War. I just feel like Civil War on its own had some really bad like points to it.
Civil War
Specific-
2.
Civil War 2. Civil War 2.
Civil War 2.
Civil War 2. Civvy 2.
I haven't read the first Civil War in forever, so maybe.
Nah,
Maybe
Civil
I'm
War 1
misremembering.
is...
No, Civil War 1's pretty damn good.
I mean,
Civil
come on.
War 1 is pretty
What was it, Mark
solid.
Millar
Like,
and... was
Mark
it
Millar and
Steve
Steve
McNiven?
McNiven.
My God.
Yeah.
Rest easy, my memories. You are correct.
Anyway, I just feel like Civil War 2 was just weirdly paced and out of character for some of the...
That's what I'm saying, and you could feel him drift away. So, like, what I am hoping is that writing the possibly like the prototype for literally all of superhero comics will bring Brian Michael Bendis that we all know and love. That started Alias, that started Goldfish, that started Jinx, that wrote, new Avengers. Remember when
Gave us Miles Morales too.
Dude, remember when Spider-Man and Luke Cage and Daredevil and Captain America and Tony Stark being the Avengers was a big deal? Like, that was Brian Michael Bendis who did that.
I think Brian Michael Bendis was just getting bored at Marvel, and he needed this freshness.
That's my
He
exact
needed a
point.
new pool of characters to dip into, and I'm excited to see him create a new either hero or villain for the DC universe.
And then eventually write Connor Hawk.
Connor Hawk's dead forever. Moving on.
I'm excited to see him do that eventually. What I really want to see him do is, plumb the depths. Like, that's what he's really good at, is, taking disparate things, making them viable. Like, it was him who brought Squirrel Girl back to the main front. Like, it was him who,
Not one of his finer points, but
no, but she is,
but she did
like,
do it.
He's super popular right
He
now.
is accomplished.
I don't dig on Squirrel Girl either, but, now she's legitimate. She's on a fucking Avengers team. Like, she's popping around with Roberto DaCosta on the U.S. Avengers. Like, she is an established hero. People know her. She has her own solo series. There's a whole mess of girl power movement behind her. Like, she is established. And aside from that, she was like a joke character in a Christmas special. Where, off-panel she defeated Galactus. And off-panel she defeated Thanos. Like,
Just
that was
like
the joke.
Just like Gwenpool, and now she's real, and it's awful.
Gwenpool's-
Although I do love the Guri
Bad
Guri team who drew her. But anyway, I'm very excited to just see whether or not, if he's going to be, changing his writing style drastically between these issues, depending on if he's looking at Clark Kent or Superman. Because if that's how it is, it's going to be great.
I'm hoping, banking.
We'll have to see.
Also,
we'll have to see.
it's,
Man of Steel comes out, next month, I think?
It starts next month, and
Yeah.
I think it's a weekly series.
It's a
and I
6-issue
think
weekly series.
And it's all different artists.
Yep.
So, best case scenario, what it ends up being is this, blitzkrieg of all these different viewpoints of Superman, and that would be stellar.
I
I
would
would be
love that.
all about that.
But,
Worst case scenario, it feels like, Brian Michael Bendis just, throwing darts at a dartboard. Like, now Superman is Clark Kent, and he works at the Daily Planet, and Lois Lane is gone. And now Superman is fighting a guy who wants to end the line of L.
Again.
Which is what it feels like right now.
Now
Everything's up in the air. Don't get me wrong, I'm only out, what was Action 1000? $8? So
Yeah.
I'm out, $8.25 at the moment.
don't forget about tax, John.
So let's move on to the third and final, most ridiculously awesome part of
It was-
the DC Nation series.
Oh my god, it's so awesome.
It's so good.
I'm so excited for what No Justice is going to be bringing. It just throws us right in the middle of this big old story. We got the different teams of the cosmic elements. What was it? Mystery, Entropy, Wonder, and what was the fourth one?
I don't even know. They were-
Hot sauce.
No.
Team Hot Sauce.
Green Arrow wasn't here.
Not
It's
hot sauce.
Wait, yeah, so Entropy, Wisdom, Wonder.
Actually, Green Arrow is here,
Yeah, but he's on Earth with Kara, who is
Kara Zor-El.
which
Kara
is
Zor-El.
the art in this is super amazing. This is a side note. I just want to say
George-
this real quick. But in this very last panel, look how flippin' anime Supergirl is for no reason. If you're listening at home,
Dude, turn the
she looks
page.
anime
She's
as
making
fuck.
that face that you look at when that happens.
George Jimenez. That is George Jimenez.
You start looking up at those fucking jerks, and you will make that face too.
George Jimenez is slowly becoming one of my favorite artists in the current DC. He's done a lot of covers for Nightwing and Teen Titans.
Wasn't that
and,
him on Super Sons?
And
as
Super
well?
Sons. He
Yeah.
did
Super Sons
designs
so
for
good.
Super
It's
Sons.
so good.
And it's so good. He did a lot of books on
And
Superman.
now
He
it's
did a lot
turning
of
into Young
Superman, too.
Justice. Woo! Young Justice.
Is that what it is becoming?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Super Sons is ending. It's turning into Young Justice. That's what's
Is
happening.
that so that way they can have the Teen
Oh.
Titans without having to call the Teen Titans?
Pretty much,
Because
yeah.
he's not a teenager.
I mean, also,
They're
more
getting
I love it.
than,
I'm about it. I love
Young
technicalities.
Justice.
Outsiders?
Yeah, Young
Season
Justice,
3?
the cartoon is coming back. And
Hopefully
then they're
by the end of the
starting
year.
the Titans proper
Still
TV
no
show. So they're trying to launch their streaming deal. But, Damian Wayne, Connor Kent, or
I
Jonathan
wish Connor
Kent.
Kent would show up, but...
Dude, I don't
Again.
wish Connor Kent would show
What?
up.
T-shirt and jeans Superboy? Oh
Dude,
my God.
you look at Connor Kent and you see T-shirt and jeans Superboy. I look at Connor Kent and I see like
The Metropolis
John
Kid.
Lennon glasses, like Offspring
No,
haircut,
no,
leather
Superboy.
jacket,
The,
Superboy.
Are you
the
okay?
Peter David Young Justice run.
Yes,
That's super.
with Wonder Girl with like the black wig and like
the
Speedy.
glasses for some reason.
Speedy, like Mia Dearden, Speedy. No, not Mia
No, it was
Dearden.
Arrowhead. It was
Yeah,
Arrowhead.
my God.
Less good than Mia Dearden. Not horrible, but you know.
She's not bad. She had some character,
Arrowhead's gonna
character
be-
moments. Yeah.
Arrowhead's gonna be in Outsiders.
Is she actually being called Arrowhead?
Yeah, because
That is the worst superhero
not-
name
no, it's-
aside from Bulleteer that exists.
I agree.
Doesn't
Call it
matter.
Speedy and don't put Arrowhead. Make it Mia Dearden because
Nah.
Mia Dearden's my girl.
Doesn't matter.
Bring
Our boy
back
Virgil
Mia Dearden.
Hawkins is showing back
I
up.
like Mia
Static
Dearden,
Shock
too.
in his sweet new costume. It's gonna be great.
Well, John, that's not very divisive.
Anyway, enough about Young Justice.
I mean, I'm looking for ways to like casually avoid the fact that she has AIDS because that feels like a fairly sizable elephant in
Anyway,
the room.
enough about Young Justice and AIDS. We're gonna get back to No Justice.
Thanks for the hero, Benjamin Percy.
So, no justice.
It just
Not
throws
Young
us,
Justice.
It just throws us right in the middle of this big cosmic event. They introduce these the Titans that emerge from the Source Wall after the events of Metal. And
Titans, go!
I'm very excited to find out
Yeah, like
what they
actual
are.
Titans.
I know.
Not
know,
of the teen variety.
Like what they are. Why are like these four
It's
like
just fun to
cosmic elements?
I don't disagree.
Why are there these like the four cosmic elements? Wonder, entropy, wisdom. Oh my god, I can never remember the last one.
Mystery.
Mystery. Entropy, wisdom, wonder, and mystery.
So,
Why is it those four?
the inherent question here is like all of those cosmic elements. Like first off, the cosmic elements as like those teams, I'm a little iffy about the naming stuff, but that's really a minor quibble. So like what I love to do is like drill down on all the like ridiculous history behind all this. So when I hear that that mystery is one of the cosmic elements, what I immediately think about is the
Detective Jim.
the house that Cain and Abel live in the Sandman comics, one of which is the House of Mystery.
The
The other one is the House of Secrets. So, like, if there ostensibly is a House of Mystery, and then there is a House of Secrets, and Mystery is one of the, like, four primal cosmic forces, like, there would have to be these other houses that exist, right? Like, House Entropy, I'd assume, would be Prometheus's house in the negative zone, or in the, like, Phantom Zone.
The one,
'Cause he
the
has
one
the-
that shows up in JLA.
Yeah, that one with the key that he
Yeah,
has.
yeah.
Because I also love Prometheus, and he needs more love. Prometheus, evil Batman needs more love.
Oh my god. Can I just say, Cry for Justice. Still one of my favorites.
It's so good.
It's one of my
Hey.
favorite Justice League stories of all time, and I might be biased because it's mostly about my boy Green Arrow.
Do you actually like Green Arrow?
I have my problems with him.
That was a rhetorical question. Spuds would wear a Green Arrow mask all the time if we did not stop.
I halfway do because
Yeah.
I am rocking a Van Dyke 28-8.
Anyway, I'm very excited to see like if this is going to be bringing back the House of Mystery because we see Dr. Fate there. With Dr. Fate, Dr. Fate showed up back in
None of
Metal.
that matters because Superman hucks Starro directly at a planet exploding.
I mean, he is Team Mystery, so like that
What's
sounds
the
very
mystery
mysterious.
is why don't we get more of Superman just throwing Starro at people? That's the mystery.
No, the real mystery is why is Sinestro there?
Because he's awesome! Sinestro is made of awesome!
Didn't he die?
I
Isn't
thought
he
it was made
dead?
of yellow.
No, Sinestro is perfectly fine. Sinestro will always be fine.
God, he just keeps coming back like
No,
with Reverse Flash.
Like, he got bounced out of the leadership of the Sinestro
Yeah,
Corps.
his
like,
daughter runs the Sinestro
yeah.
Corps now.
and
After
now
she
has
branded Kyle Rayner.
he deserved it.
Yeah,
But-
Kyle Rayner's the worst.
Crab face Kyle.
I mean, that new costume's sweet. But anyway,
It's okay.
it's an update, finally.
I mean, but
He's still rocking the
Sinestro
crab face.
specifically, like, will always be fine. Like, he's one of those guys. Like the Joker. He will never ever die.
I mean, he's Green Lantern. He's like Green Lantern's like #1 villain.
I mean, and deservedly so, dude.
I thought
As
every
in, I mean,
number one
Besides the
villain was
Lantern
fear.
Corps, the Lantern Corps. I mean,
Wait
he
a
is
minute.
Bazang!
You know what? You know what? Besides all the space cosmic stuff, really doesn't even have any other villains. Who remembers anyone else besides like maybe Hector Hammond?
Hector Hammond, Dr. Polaris is agreeing.
All right. I'll give you that.
In the
Crime.
you could,
This was
you
my.
could count both Jesus and Greed in the.
All right,
Also,
this is-
Necron, Black Hand.
I said
Atrocitus.
non-cosmic entities.
Santa Claus.
Those are cosmic entities, and you know it.
Santa Claus is a cosmic.
Yeah, no.
Exactly, he's a
That's,
cosmic
that's a
concept.
viable argument.
The best
Anyway.
part of Teen Titans Go is that he's a recurring villain.
Anyway, back to No Justice. This like what 6-7 pages we get of like these different teams that aren't just, like
all character
they aren't even
intros.
just
Yeah.
heroes. It's what was it?
Deathstroke,
Sinestro, Starro.
Lobo, the
Lobo,
good Lobo,
the
not
good
emo Lobo.
He died. Doesn't matter. He doesn't matter.
Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor, and not even like Super Lex. Like Lex Luthor, shield removed, back to his old ways.
That happened in this action.
Yeah.
This current action special.
Yeah.
Like that happened this week. Like you find out that Lex strips the shield off his power armor.
Yeah.
Big deal.
It's big. He's been like trying to take in the shoes of Superman since, and like because of the events of what was it, the Dark Side.
I mean, kind of. Oh, also Etrigan's on that team.
Etrigan, yeah, that's him too. I love seeing Etrigan show up.
Oh,
Prime
Team
and-
Wonder is rad.
And
Team
Harley
Wonder is-
Quinn, because you know who she is.
Yeah, she's on Team Wisdom.
Dude,
You know what?
Who is that lady? I have never seen her.
We'll just have
before.
to tune into the live action TV show to find out. Anyway, I really am very excited for this run for No Justice, leading into Scott Snyder's Justice League run, which breaks off into the new Justice League Dark and Justice League Odyssey series.
More to the point, God, somebody needs to write a good Justice League arc because the last 2 years have been awful.
Jeff Johns stepped down from the book, and then people were like, "How do we follow?
I mean, even
Or what do we do?" And Jeff Johns just gives them the old shrug and like, "I don't know, figure it out."
Jeff Johns' run was great. Jim Lee's art was great.
Oh,
But like, you know, like I feel like there hasn't been an expressly Justice League run that was like knockback fantastic in forever.
Mhm.
Like I can't even remember since like
Cry for
maybe
Justice.
Forever Evil.
Forever, like
Oh,
that Forever.
I
Evil
love
arc,
Forever Evil.
That
Forever
Forever
Evil
Evil
was
arc
great.
leading, and
But
then
like the biggest
last-
part of Forever Evil was that there was no Justice League. Like,
There was like that weird dark Justice League.
Yeah.
And my boy
who
Captain
was
Cold got some
awesome.
love.
But like it wasn't Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Wasn't, you know, like
I
the
mean,
current Justice League run is god awful. Where they're like trying to solve African war crimes, like it's terrible.
Are you saying you're pro African war crimes?
I am not pro African war crimes. I would like that on record.
But the people that got writing Justice League, what was it? Brian Hitch in the beginning of Rebirth, and then moving on to what, Priest, Christopher Priest.
Chris Priest can write a
He can write.
fantastic
He's been doing a
story.
lot of good stuff. He wrote a lot of like what was it, Black Panther.
Yeah. The inherent problem is that he put Black Panther into the middle of Justice League and made him a villain. And that's weird.
Yeah, and then he also like brought in Deathstroke a bunch because that's the other book he's writing for
Yeah,
DC
but
right now.
Deathstroke is a viable villain
Yeah,
for
but
the
he's-
Justice League.
But he's just showing up more of like an anti-hero thing. And
But he's also
It's weird.
setting.
Who's Deathstroke? Is he that Deadpool looking motherfucker?
you know what? Enough of your Teen
Hilarious.
Titans Go shenanigans.
uh,
Will Arnett will be a fantastic Deathstroke, and I think he'll go on
He's playing
par.
Slade.
All right, we're done with this conversation right now. Moving on.
so Deathstroke's a viable Justice League villain. Like you can totally write him as such.
Mhm.
But I would assume there's a lot of setup for No Justice going on right now, and that's why you've seen so much of him.
Mhm.
And the like current Batman Deathstroke crossover, which is kind of alternately going on with the like preparations for the wedding and the other stuff. Like and Booster Gold like jacking up Batman's timeline, like all of that stuff is all kind of set up for, you know, like a Deathstroke to make a major splash, and then there's movie nonsense that's happening. So, like, that character is kind of primed to make, finally, you know, the leap from like regular Arrow style fame to actual fame, where like people recognize you and like put your stickers on their cars.
Kids
It
love
is a
Big
big
guess
league,
so.
man. Like that's what I'm saying. Like Shaquille O'Neal made an entire car out of the Superman symbol. Like
Yeah, he did.
the comic symbols are viable. Like they are universal. So
Anyway.
let's move on to Death or Glory.
Death and Glory by
Death or glory.
what?
Or. It clearly says or right here. Death or glory.
I thought she drove a car, not a boat.
What?
That's an or joke with an N.
Jesus Christ, dude. That is awful.
Death or Glory by Rick Remender and Bengal.
That's it, folks. That's the end of the podcast already. Thank you so much for tuning in for these past 2 weeks. See you later.
Oh God, I need this.
All right, let's move on to Death or Glory
Death or
in
Glory.
a vain attempt to avoid the repercussions of that particular joke.
Death or Glory. John, thoughts?
It is the one thing that I think is positive about all of it is that it's Rick fucking Remender. Like the guy has a track record like almost no one else. Like if there's one thing he can do, it's write fantastic comics. So like that's why it was such a weird thing to have this book, which is ostensibly double-sized,
Mm-hmm. It was a thick book.
that has really not much happening in it. You know, like I guess the
It gave us some background. It introduced us to the character Glory, but at the same time, it felt a little weak.
yeah. I mean, and
yeah.
it's and
I
like
have
when
nothing
you
to add to that.
I mean, I haven't read a lot of as much Remender as you, John, but I've read some Remender, and this definitely felt like a weaker number one than what was the last one I read? Tokyo Ghoul, Tokyo Ghost.
Tokyo.
Tokyo Ghost.
Tokyo Ghoul is the anime. Tokyo Ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote the entire anime Tokyo Ghoul.
Well,
No, Tokyo Ghost
good for
had
him.
a stronger number one, I feel.
Well, I
'cause
mean,
it
to be fair,
fully
it was Sean
dragged-
Murphy on art, and
Yeah, but
anything
the-
Sean Murphy will drag you in, even if all its faces look exactly the same.
Yeah, but the artist on this is stellar. Like
It's great. The art's
whoever it is
fantastic.
great.
Bengal.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
It's
Like,
just
I've
his
literally never heard of them ever before.
I liked it. Like the art was great. I like the paneling and the designs for the characters and like the scenes.
So
Everybody's got like that sweat thing though when they're nervous, which is annoying. I hate when people do that.
I mean,
Don't do
don't
that. I'll fight
don't
you.
read it. Don't read anime if you don't want anime.
I don't read anime. I hate anime. We've been over this.
Anyway, I just felt like it was
Anime
kind
was
of a
cartoons?
weak.
Manga.
I just felt like it was kind of a weak
it's
number one.
it's slow. So the thing I'm hoping for is that it's a slow burn and not
Mhm.
just slow. Because I mean, you know, you have things like Deadly Class,
Mm-hmm.
which start off with a bang. You have, in my opinion, his best work, Fear Agent, which starts off with a bang. You have Tokyo Ghost, which also starts off with like this insane nightmare bang.
Oh my god!
You know,
he
like
also does Black Science, right?
yeah,
I love Black Science.
It's a sweet
Jared and
book.
I were going hard on that for a little while.
and it also starts off with a bang. So like my theory is that he's just trying a different pace. You know what I mean? Like he's just trying to.
Maybe he's trying to mimic the car in which he's driving, and if this issue is first gear, the next issue second gear, third issue they're just gonna skip third gear straight go to fourth gear, hit the nuts, boom.
And then it's
blast it
gonna
down
then
the
it's
highway.
gonna stall. It's gonna stall
I mean-
out. We're gonna get a few issues of him just like pushing the car along the highway, and then eventually they'll get up back to gear, and then it'll end. It'll be good. But I think
I don't know if the car metaphor was a great one.
The car metaphor was a great one, John.
No.
You diss my car metaphors again, and I'll cry. I'll cry in front of everybody.
I just think Death or Glory. Like I'm excited for what's coming up. Like the next issue. I want to see if it picks up the pace a little bit. If it adds more to this, like what's going on. It'll add more, but
I want to see.
I feel like this will probably read better in trade.
Almost certainly. Like this
Like this story feels like something that should have been released as just an OGN.
as an OGN. I don't
Yeah.
disagree there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that was kind of what they were trying to mitigate with the like long first issue.
It was a thick book.
Yeah. But it just feels I mean it feels a little flat. which is
Just like
unfortunate.
this guy's face when it falls off when it gets hit with that liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
I
coolest
mean,
part
it
of
was
the
a
whole
pretty
book.
great scene, but it also happens 2 pages in. Literally 2 pages in.
Yeah, but he shows it down that guy's throat, and he's just like breathing ice. That's cool.
Yeah, but he doesn't explain why this guy wants 132 hamburgers.
It does.
He never explains it. He
It's
shows
at
up
the
again.
very end. It's the last page
Oh, actually, yeah.
where there's
yeah.
132 hamburger wrappers pouring out of the back of a truck filled with, I assume, slaves
Or,
or
immigrants,
you know, immigrants or something. I don't know. People who are not having a good time in the back of a truck. I mean, I assume he made all those burgers by himself mostly, and I don't know how good this guy makes burgers.
Probably. I guess that explains that. I just felt like a weak start, but I'm
I don't know,
sure I'm sure Rick Remender will pick it up.
it's
fun
weird.
to
It
do.
has points in it that feel like if you had like collapsed them together in a shorter issue,
Like one of those Mad
Would've-
Magazine folding pages.
yeah, it would have been like a more interesting comic. But it's weird. The space in it just gives itself a little too much room to breathe.
Mhm.
And because of that, it ends up feeling a little slow.
I think we said enough. I think we said enough about Death and Glory. It's definitely a book to watch out for because
Never count Rick Remender.
Never
out for
count Rick Remender
anything.
Nobody
Like-
puts Remender in the corner.
even if you put himself in that corner.
Yeah, it's weird that the longest book has the shortest segment.
I mean, right.
Well,
there.
I don't know. I don't know if this is the longest book because now we're moving on to Hunt for Wolverine #1.
Oh yeah, we still have Hunt for
Oh,
Wolverine.
that's right,
number one.
Hunt for Wolverine. Which was a big boy.
It was a big book. I only really have a few things to say about it. First things first, I didn't read Death of X. I could care less about Wolverine at this point. I liked him in a lot of the TV shows and everything. I grew up with him, but I could care less about Logan right now.
The best
And the
thing
fact that,
Wolverine does is cut people's heads into 3 pieces, and he never does that anymore. Why don't you do that anymore, Wolverine? Cut someone's head into 3 pieces.
It's not his fault. The
Wolverine
people
does
who
that all the time.
not in the movies.
He has not done it in the past 2 years, John. He's been dead.
I mean, but Jimmy Hudson does. Old Man Logan does. Literally, the
X-23
other
does.
17 people do.
Anyway,
X-23 cannot cut them into 3 pieces. He only got 2 claws.
yes, you can.
Right. 4 pieces.
No.
He cuts them into the...
No, you jump. She jump, kicks, cuts the neck, cuts across with the claws.
I mean, more to the point, if you have 2
Because
claws,
she
you
has
cut
the
them
foot
into
claws.
3 pieces.
Look, man,
Like,
I don't
that's,
do math.
That's how
I do
fractions
math
work.
less than I read.
Enough about toe claws.
Fractions.
Hunt for Wolverine,
Matt
the quote-unquote return of Wolverine, because we saw
Which
him
is-
come back in Marvel Legacy, which we talked about way in the beginning,
I mean, more to the point,
and
it
in
also
Infinity
just
Countdown.
wasn't the return of Wolverine.
Nah, it was
It
just
was a
people
bunch of
discovering
Kitty
he's-
Pryde being sad and dumping out beer on Wolverine's grave. Which
Yeah,
is
and then
fine.
and then the Reavers showed up and got their asses handed to them, and they
The
left.
Reavers were actually some of the Reaver moments were the better parts of that
It was.
book. Honestly,
I think my favorite part about that that first section was just the narrating going on between Kitty Pryde, Pat, telling the story to Logan's grave about how the Reavers are trying to steal his body, and then they all of them except one get captured, and then Kitty Pryde's like, how did this secret get out that Wolverine's there? And then Tony Stark's like, you let one of them go, what? You run a school. How did you not figure this out? And Kitty Pryde just phases out of the wall before she
I don't know, man.
Kitty Pryde really needs the Kitty Pryde that is currently in charge of the X-Men Gold Team, which has been a decent book at the best of times.
Besides, barring its initial problems with art.
Oh right, with the racism.
Yeah, with the racism.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad look for X-Men Gold.
For an X-Men book, jeez. Anyway,
Let's make my
it's
racist
been-
statements in a book about how stupid racism is.
but aside from that, I just the last one I gotta say about this is just Wolverine hasn't been dead long enough. Jean Grey's been dead for 15 years in the comic, and in our time in the comic world, it's probably
more
more
than
2
that.
weeks.
How long has Banshee been dead?
Who cares?
Well, his daughter certainly cared.
No, she doesn't. She's better off without him, and we all know this. She just doesn't want to admit it.
So the best part of Hunt for Wolverine, which is a $6 invitation to spend more money on the other limited series is that the other limited series, if Weapon Lost is to be any indication, are awesome. Weapon Lost is fantastic. It is a Daredevil-led team of like street-level heroes starring Frank McGee, who's the Inhuman.
The Inhuman investigator who
Yes!
who can like capture images with his eyes.
Yes!
I love that.
Starring
dude.
Frank McGee, Misty Knight,
Doesn't
and-
need an Inhuman name.
and Cypher. Y'all?
Wait, why didn't I read this
my
book?
God.
I don't know.
It's because I don't read books.
So, Daredevil starts rounding up people, and then they're like, yeah, so we're probably going to need to learn more languages. And Misty Knight's like, yo, I know a guy. And then they go to Cypher, who is just strung out and weird and starving to death because he's trying to translate the internet into human.
I mean,
Everyone's right, but everyone's wrong.
That's literally a quote from it.
I know, Zach was telling me about it. That's what he was talking about. Now I get it. It all comes together. I am the real life Frank McGee
so
detective.
pretty much what this comes down to is Hunt for Wolverine is just a preface for the other titles coming out.
But the
Preface?
best part, and the
No, it's preface. You uncultured swine.
But the best part about those series are also that they do not really involve Wolverine.
Thank God.
Like, it could have been called The Hunt for the Infinity Gauntlet, and it would have been the same book.
Essentially.
So I think the
Not
worst part-
essentially, literally. Like, exactly so. Like, Weapon Lost could have been absolutely anything. Like,
I mean, I kind of just
Well,
want to have that team
well,
running
we
around
don't know
as, like,
what
a real
weapon is
team.
lost.
that's what
John.
I'm saying.
I would love that.
Maybe
That's
Daredevil
just Marvel's Detective Comics.
misplaces batons, and that's the weapon that's lost. I don't know.
No, the real weapon that's lost is his ability to litigate because he doesn't know how to lawyer anymore. And he has to hire Misty Knight to help him find his ability to lawyer. And then he discovers at the end it was within him all along. But
Merry Christmas.
Hunt for Wolverine. Any closing thoughts on that?
Hunt for Wolverine is totally worth a buy if you're interested at all in Logan and like have been wondering where he's been for like the past 19 Wolverines. But there is one section in Weapon Lost which I'm going to keep harping on because it's a better book than Hunt for Wolverine. But Hunt for Wolverine leads directly into it. Like Hunt for Wolverine sets the stage for these 4 series that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The titles of which escape me for the moment.
We'll come back to later. You can just look up
but-
online Hunt for Wolverine, and it'll tell you the other series.
But Weapon Lost is
It
the
won't.
most intriguing because it's Wolverine. He knows literally everybody. Like the reason why Kitty Pryde goes to Daredevil first is because Daredevil knows the hand better than anybody else, except for possibly Wolverine, which is one of those things that you don't really think about. Like, yeah, Daredevil fights ninjas all the time. Wolverine also fights ninjas all the time. You always forget about the fact that they're the same damn ninjas that they've been fighting this whole time.
They just fight at two ends of like a ninja death squadron, and they get to the middle and like same ninjas, and then they continue
Seriously.
past
And then they like fist bump and like go away. Like there has not been a Daredevil Wolverine crossover ever. Hasn't. Except for
their uncle.
possibly in the Ultimate Universe called Blockbuster, which was terrible.
But anyway, Hunt for Wolverine #1. It's pretty much just the lead into the other series. Is really just check out Weapon Lost.
Definitely check out Weapon
Definitely
Lost.
check
If
out
you
Weapon
love, like noir stuff and like mystery stuff and like street level Marvel stuff, which I genuinely do. Like
Yeah,
it
some of the best
is, it's definitely like because what I am hoping out of the whole Hunt for Wolverine like 4-pack that is coming in the wake of Hunt for Wolverine is that they will all be like different facets of the life of Wolverine. So it'll be like the weird private eye, like street level stuff, and like the, like blood and guts insanity, and then like the, the rest of Weapon X, and like on the run from the military, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, like the ridiculous X-Men nonsense. Like, if you could make all 4 of those things eventually lead into, like whatever the termination of all of this is going to be, which will presumably be another $10 issue called, the fine for Wolverine.
No, it's gonna be called Wolverine: Found. It's gonna be $10. It'll be super thick, and it's just gonna be entirely all exposition from multiple characters, all converging on the one point where it's just Wolverine just like in a room and he's just sitting there just like on the toilet reading through a magazine with a cigar in his mouth, and they all simultaneously bust through the door and he's like, "Can a man shit in peace?" And that's how it ends.
The weird
Calling
part
it.
about all of this
Is that you believe it?
is that he's been bopping around with the Space Stone for...
Not anymore. He gave it to Black Widow, which
I
was a
know,
mistake.
which is doubly weird, who was also dead. But
She was dead for not. She wasn't dead. She like passed out for a solid minute and then woke back
not
up.
true at all. Did you not read Tales of Suspense?
Well,
the
of course,
the Hawkeye and Winter Soldier book,
she
which
died,
is amazing.
but like she was dead. She wasn't dead for very long.
No,
Come on.
she was not. No, she very much wasn't.
It's like if you're looking at a heart monitor, it's where it just like stops for a second and then keeps going. That's really how long she was dead for.
I mean, that's actually a pretty accurate assessment. But at any rate, you should pick up Hunt for Wolverine if you're interested. Definitely pick up Weapon Lost if you're interested in street level stuff. And give the rest of them a check out. You know, if you're
Who knows
curious
how it
about what corners the Marvel universe can go to when you're not looking at it in like a high profile title like Avengers. Because that's what I am hoping will come out of this. Like just exploration of the weird sides of the Marvel universe.
Which would be great.
Yeah.
And I'll just end with Logan shitting on a toilet.
Stop with the Logan shit.
Anyway, that ends the big book talk.
Really? We're ending big books on Logan shitting? This guy.
No, we're ending big books on you talking about how disgusted you are with Logan shit.
I mean, I
It's
guess
a
that's
natural human thing to do, John. Just because you
You're
don't do it,
disgusting.
because you're a computer.
it.
Full circle.
More like a magic library, really. Ever expanding, and no one really knows how it works.
So that brings us to my favorite part of this segment. And I say my favorite part of the segment, knowing full well that we've only done this one other time. General discussion.
Woo!
Does anybody want to bring up anything?
I think you want to bring up a book more than
I
anything
would like
else.
to bring up a book before we get into Spuds' book, because I know we're going to be on it for a while.
Probably.
But I'd
What makes you say that?
I had actually intended to bring this up
I don't have that much dragon energy with me today.
last week, and it
God
kind
damn
of,
it.
gotten off track. But in a similar vein, a book to look for is Spider King. Like, I really, really like Spider King.
You were telling me about that.
You were not telling me about that. So you can tell me about it fresh-faced and bushy-tailed.
Is that a fact?
don't know.
Like,
Tell me what Spider King is, John.
So-
Maybe I don't care.
Spider King is a
Spoiler, I
story
don't.
about two Viking tribes that are warring, and in the middle of their crazy Viking war tribe, alien ships crash down, so they immediately loot and pillage them,
I take it back. I care. Continue.
and then are just running around with these like ridiculous weapons made out of spirals and like that explode into nuclear explosions, and none of them know how any of them work. And then one of the like tribal leaders gets eaten by, or not eaten, but like taken over by one of the alien life forms.
Okay.
So then everything just starts to pile up, and it's like Viking people dealing with alien spaceships, and it's awesome. Spider King is fantastic, and it's one of those books that like, even in solicits, was like way down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Was like
no one's ever
buried-
like this.
yeah, it was like buried. I think it's IDW that's putting it out, but it was like buried next to like Rick Veitch's The One, which is a weird book at the best of times, and also came out 20 years ago. And
Still being solicited though.
I mean, well, it got like, it's doubly weird because it got like redone, but it's a black and white book. So like the black and white got more black and more white.
You gotta touch up some colors,
It's so weird, man.
You gotta
It's
make
so
sure
weird.
them blacks pop against them whites.
I mean, I like Rick Veitch. I really do. Like, he did a run with Alan Moore on, when Alan Moore started his own, like, Crazy Pants comic company, America's Best Comics. He wrote Promethea, did all that. But Rick Veitch did Indigo Sunset, which is awesome. This book, is Spider King, was just kind of buried in the middle of everything, and it was a new story. I had never heard of the writer before, never heard of the penciler before, but, did one of those things where you're like, what's there to lose? And was not disappointed whatsoever. It's absolutely amazing.
I'm looking at the cover for this, and I am thoroughly disappointed that I missed this.
I know.
Because I am a huge, huge Headlopper fan, and like it
Yeah.
doesn't look like McLean art, but it feels like McLean art.
That is exactly how it feels. Like, it paces exactly as such, except, Headlopper is ostensibly about Headlopper, Like, it's about that dude.
And Agatha Blue Witch.
I mean, yeah, but she's a head.
Credit where credit's due.
She's a head on his belt. Like, she provides the commentary, but, it's about him and, like, the adventures he has. But, like, this book is about, like, these two tribes, so there's so much more to work with. And then there's, like, people who are off on their own wacky assassination missions and, like, all of this, like, interpolitical stuff that just, like, comes to a head when, like, the archer who was supposed to do the assassinating finds a bunch of, like, weird alien fuel rods and ties them to her arrows and just starts, like,
Sick.
flinging nonsense around. Like, that's what the book is. And it's great.
How many issues are out?
4 so far. I think it's a 5-issue series. So the trade should be out in a month or two.
Okay.
Should be up for solicitation this upcoming month.
So, Silk Master Flex, what was your book that you wanted to bring?
I will always. You love Green Arrow, and I love Green Lantern.
I'm sorry.
I love Hal Jordan. I love Guy Gardner. I love John Stewart. I could care less about Kyle Rayner. I mean, he's fine.
Crabface Kyle had his moments.
Yeah, he was the torchbearer. Come on.
Yeah.
But Green Lanterns specifically is what I'm going to talk about. Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz.
Those are my two favorite Green Lanterns.
They are
Because
phenomenal.
Simon Baz is
They're
everything
out
I
there.
love
How-
about Guy Gardner, with nothing that I hate about Guy Gardner.
On the other hand, John Stewart right now running the Green Lantern Corps is
Oh.
coming hard.
Yeah,
John Stewart is awesome.
It's a little personal.
Hal Jordan and the Green
What?
Lantern Corps.
it's a little personal, don't you think?
Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps is a phenomenal book. But I'll talk about that later because I want to rant right now about Green Lanterns because Green Lanterns brings two characters that were both introduced like almost simultaneously. Like Simon Baz first, and then Jessica Cruz came in like the arc afterwards.
Jessica Cruz was Fallout from
Forever Evil.
Evil, right?
It was
Yeah.
like Simon Baz showed up like right before Forever Evil happened, and then people kind of forgot about it because everyone got like murdered in Forever Evil, and then everyone came back, and then we got like Jessica Cruz Power Ring, and Simon Baz was just kind of like there, like he wasn't part of the Justice League. It was Hal Jordan still, and he was just kind of there. He had a ring, but he wasn't doing much with it. And then they talked about Jessica Cruz, who was Power Ring, then
Which was
eventually
dope.
overcame her fear, and getting the Green Lantern ring.
Man.
That's what you do when you overcome great fear.
Forever
And
Evil.
Volthoon's
So
Power
cool.
Ring.
Seriously.
Volthoon's Power Ring is like the greatest fear in the universe. So you overcome that, you deserve a Green Lantern ring. So
Yeah,
when
here you
Rebirth
go,
happened,
kid.
Hal Jordan's like, you two need some time to do stuff. I'm gonna slap you together and bind you to the lantern. Enjoy. And he just flies out, never to be seen again by them. And they're
The
just
cosmic
forced.
equivalent to every 80s buddy cop movie of all time.
So seriously,
You're a loose cannon. You're a little
Seriously,
too old
this
for
book-
this shit.
this book feels like a
Starsky and
really good
Baz.
buddy cop film.
Yeah,
Because Simon Baz
it's
and Jessica
true.
Cruz contrast each other insanely well, while also having so many similarities between their backgrounds and their life and their history and their families.
The best
And
part
it's so
is
good.
the classic partner dinners that they have at Simon Baz's
No.
family.
Forget the dinners. It's them agreeing to eat waffles at the end of this, and then never getting the chance to eat waffles. And when they do get to eat waffles,
What? They don't
they
get
have
to
to
eat
go and
waffles?
save the universe again.
This,
It is
That's
my
the
it is my
saddest thing I've
favorite
ever
thing.
heard.
was this the book that starts off with them in Volthoon's Power Ring? Yeah, man.
This week's issue
More
was
to the point,
amazing.
This is the first time we actually get to hear any backstory of Jessica Cruz and why she's agoraphobic.
Yeah,
in
because when she
any of
gets
that.
introduced, she's just like stuck in her apartment, and after like Sinestro just straight murders Harold Jordan, like the
Oh,
Volthoon's
right,
Power
Power
Ring
Ring.
finds the most fearful person in the entire world, and it's Jessica Cruz because she watched her best friends and former love get murdered in front of her, and then she had to escape that, and she just loses all of her confidence and ability
Really?
to
See,
exist.
I didn't even think it was that. Like, that is enough to, drive a person to, like, madness or fear or anything. But, like, for me, what it really felt like was, like, this was a concrete reason why she was consistently in fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean,
because she saw
people
that
hunting
happen,
me.
and
I would.
because they got killed in front of her, and because she got away, and because she never really, there was never a point where she ever felt empowered there. Like, all of these are kind of really viable reasons as to why Jessica Cruz was powering in the first place, and what she had to overcome to become a Green Lantern
Which
in the
was
second place.
phenomenal.
And, you know, on top of all that, you end up with Solomon Baz.
Ah,
Powering
Solomon Baz.
version of Simon Baz.
Who
Really?
was
Straight up.
and Simon Baz is just such an interesting Green Lantern because when he first shows up in the second or third arc, second I think, of Jeff Johns' New 52 Green Lantern run, after Sinestro and Hal get trapped in the Green Lantern ring,
Yeah.
they find Simon, who's like wrongly imprisoned, for essentially being Muslim, and then he gets thrown into Guantanamo Bay. And he's just trying.
No, I mean, like, that's not necessarily true. He gets caught driving a van full of explosives.
True, but
Like,
the thing is,
that's not great. But like, the ring finds him because it is a fusion of Hal's fearlessness and Sinestro's devotion, and that's what Simon Baz has always represented to me.
Also,
Was the fusion of those two completely dichotomous philosophies.
it's the best. It's probably like not the best parts, but it's the strongest character points of both Hal Jordan and Sinestro.
Yeah,
and that whole previous arc and like the subsequent arc afterwards, after they're freed, is just them realizing they're best friends and they'll always be best friends, even though they're mortal enemies.
Yeah,
which is great. And then he slaughters all the Guardians. But
Well, yeah.
back to Green Lanterns.
the best part about Simon Baz is he's a Green Lantern who truly carries the most powerful weapon. Or he did. A gun!
He had
gives
his
the gun
stipulations for
to Batman. All right,
We'll talk about the gun
he
later.
dropped
but
the gun.
I just really love because like Simon Baz was the first Green Lantern to be told, "Hey, the ring can't heal people," and he's like, "Fuck that!" And he heals his best friend and sister's husband of the ailment that's causing him to be comatose. I don't remember what it was. And he just wakes up, and then
I believe it was
Badge,
Comus
the little
disease.
little swirl thing, is just like, holy shit.
I gotta go tell everybody.
And then he gains like new powers we never seen. But like Rebirth is just the Rebirth Green Lanterns is a great story because it's just them going back and forth, being friends, like an '80s buddy cop TV show, and it's phenomenal.
It's true.
This arc, this issue, is them finally diving into the Jessica Cruz.
Which has taken long enough, man.
Long
Jessica
enough.
Cruz has needed a backstory for a good long while now.
And I mean, she's
When
had a
was Forever
backstory, but
Evil?
this is the depth of it.
Dude,
2000
Forever Evil was like 2015 or something. It's been like
2014, I think. It was like 2014.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is like finally like the resolution to all that, and it's just such an amazing story to see. And I love Green Lanterns.
Holy shit. It was 2013, 2014.
checks out.
Anyway, Green Lanterns, phenomenal. If you're not reading it, read it.
Agreed.
Moving on.
Spudsy.
Spuds. Last but certainly least.
Alright.
Spudsy, who's been biting his tongue, just waiting to jump on this.
He just texted me the minute he finished reading it. It took him like 4 years to finish it, but he's like, "We
Oh
gotta
my
talk
God.
about this."
Let me just say, this is what happened exactly 3 months ago. I was flipping through previews, and I saw this picture. Let me paint this scene. Me standing at the counter, flipping through real quick. There's a picture of a unicorn with 5 horns, a pentacorn, and standing in front of him is just like this super badass bard. Coda. This is the book we're talking about right now. Coda, aka my code word for booze when I was an edgy teenager. I don't remember why, but anyways, Coda issue 1. I don't know if I've ever read a better first issue in my entire life, because it sets up the world so well. It gives you all the lore you might need to get a taste, right? And not too much that you don't need to read on, you know?
It's kind of strange because I feel like Coda is the exact opposite side of the coin of Death or Glory.
Yes.
Like, Death or Glory has all of, and they're both double-sized issues.
It's huge. It took me 2 days to read.
That's what
It's
I'm
so
saying.
thick, even
Death
the
or
covers.
Death or Glory, like at the
It's so
end of it,
thick,
you're
I
like,
need your help.
Coda at the end of it, you're like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is going to happen next?
Oh my god.
Is we have a pentacorn with the foulest mouth. It's just a unicorn just standing around going, fuck, shit. Gets locked up in stables for saying rude words to guards after kicking them in the nads.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, the
It's
guard
like
probably
the horse from
deserved it.
Tangled if he could talk.
Yeah. Like, it's about it takes place in a fantasy world where some sort of strange apocalypse happened, where they half talk about it, half don't talk about it,
We'll get to it.
give you the entire lore. There's the Eilf, which is basically elves, I assume, and the Orkin, I'm gonna guess.
Dwarves.
Yeah. And this guy used to be a bard before this happened, you know, dealing in lies and music. What's
Well,
better? These, it's just, it's so.
Would you say it's a really good blend of like fantasy meets post-apocalyptic?
I'd say
Yes.
it's easily the best version of that I've seen recently. Like, also because it's so colorful. Like, it's
Mhm.
so aware of what it is. And, like, even though it is about a rundown, like, formerly idyllic magic using society,
Mm-hmm.
like, all of it, like, every page, the colors pop. Like,
Everything.
every single one. Every time you flip the page, there's something happening. And, like,
Even when it's boring.
the panel structuring is absolutely ridiculous. You know, like, it reorients itself almost every page. You know, like, you don't have something like we were talking about earlier with, like, the Mr. Miracle jail cells.
Yeah.
Where it's, like, 16 square panels on a page or something like that. Or, like, the regular standard 9. Like, this one, every time you flip the page, like, there's something over here, and then 3 panels over here, and then, like, you know, something wacky knocking off here. Like, it's absolutely insane. There's weird jazz, like, standing on each other. It's, like, the entirety of the book just pops. Like, every time you look, things are happening. And that's one of its biggest strengths. And not the least of which is the fact that the main character is one of the most human humans that's
Oh
ever
my god,
existed.
right? Like, I both hate this guy and want the best for him.
Right?
At the same time, which is
I
nuts,
think-
because normally I just hate people.
I think that Coda is just a really good example of like what an indie number one should be. Because like a superhero number one, like depending on the characters and whatnot, if like Avengers number one, it's all pre-established characters. There's no one new. We know who these people
Yeah,
are.
nobody
They may be
needs...
relatively new, like Ghost Rider, like Robbie Reyes.
Yeah, but
but
nobody
we know
needs
who
an
they are.
origin story
We don't need an
for
origin
Black
story.
Panther. Nobody needs an origin story for Tony Stark. Like, you don't need to, like, smash cut to Tony Stark in the desert, like, almost dying again.
Yeah,
Like, you really
we know
just
that
don't.
happened.
But, like, in
Wait,
something
wait, wait.
like
When
this,
did Tony Stark almost die in a desert?
never. That
Just
was
watch the
completely
movie.
made up.
Just
Yeah,
watch
no.
the movie. You'll see it. There's
I
a there's a
legitimately
guy
thought it was
there's a
being
guy
done.
there. Sam Rockwell shows up eventually. It's fine.
Depends on who you read.
But
But Coda specifically, and then it does that thing that I love when indie books do, where they just give me a map.
That
Mm.
Oh, you stole my favorite part,
Oh my
John, you
God.
son of a bitch. Look how gorgeous this map is. Alex, did you read this? Do you want to borrow this?
I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I've been very busy.
So
But
good.
it looks gorgeous. I flipped through it and I just
Headlopper does the
Um,
same.
I had
when you
Lopper's
have
so good.
when you have a fantasy,
It's-
when you have a fantasy book, you gotta include a map because people need to know what's going on. You build this world and you create these like landmarks that you talk about, and people just absolutely love seeing them physically laid out.
Take
More to
a
the
note
point,
from
like,
Tolkien.
there is literally
I mean,
no way
Tolkien
that you didn't have to
was the
work it
president.
out on a map in order to get the story down.
Obviously, I assume
So just publish
I
a
assume
damn
the
map.
writer, which was
This for this?
Yeah, for
Spurrier,
both.
Simon Spurrier.
Simon Spurrier. I assume we have like several napkins somewhere in his house that's just like crudely drawn on with either Sharpie, pencil, or like leftover pasta sauce or something of this like the map. When you put them all together, it's just that image on the back of the book.
Salisbury knows how to tell a tale. But this, honestly, this feels special. Like, he's done some books that are really interesting,
Oh my gosh.
but
Do you think this is like gonna be
this
his opus?
feels different. This feels a lot more like, you know, these are the things I've experienced in my life, and this is how I'm choosing to tell it. You know what I mean?
It's
like
his story.
Yeah,
Like this
that's
is the
what
story
it feels
he's
like
wanted
me.
to tell.
And it feels like, even though it's, you know, dipped in magic and like full of a bunch of like weird, you know, science weapons and like, you know, enormous talking dinosaur fossils, like it feels like a very personal story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, first off, like a razor's edge to walk. To tell a story that big in a land that big. But, like, it's just expertly done. Like, it is stellar.
Coda is probably one of the better like indie books to drop in the past couple of weeks. There's been a lot of really good ones.
I mean, that's
can
what
I-
I'm saying. Like,
Lucid Dreaming being one of them, but like
I wanna-
Coda.
I want to say
We'll talk about Lucid Dreaming.
something real quick. I just realized about this map is that the second map, which is a close-up of where Ridgetown is. So the first map, listeners at home, is an overarching entire this edge of the continent, and it just shows from east to west, you know, and it's like beautifully drawn. And then there's like a more crudely drawn map of the main town that it takes place in Ridgetown. But if you look closely, there's ink bleeds from the first map on the shittier map, and that to me is just, oh my god. If there's anything that screams fantasy story to me, it's maps, and more than that, it's shitty maps.
I mean, but Coda #1, definitely a big book by, was it Boom?
Boom.
Boom. Oh my god. Boom is slowly becoming like a favored indie company for me. They've got so many books out. Some of my favorite indie books coming out right now are by Boom. And we'll
It's
talk
so
about that
weird.
at some other point.
I feel like they just
I
like,
will
yeah,
hype Boom all
they just
day.
like, it came out of the shadows like a fucking assassin. Like, it's crazy.
And they just hit me with all these books. I'm like, yeah.
But my coda of Coda is that if you don't read Coda, you're dead to me. So here you go, Alex.
I own this book. I just haven't gotten to it.
Oh,
I'll take this book though, so you don't
Don't
have it
get it.
anymore. But
fucking! I have to look at the map some more, just like for like
All right,
hours on
guys.
end.
that was our general discussion. Even though this entire podcast is essentially just general discussion.
Generally,
Up next, we're gonna have a little extended time on the podcast because we're gonna talk about Free Comic Book Day. Because Free Comic Book Day, I feel like, is very important. Free Comic Book Day, as if you don't know what Free Comic Book Day is, it's the
First Saturday in May.
First Saturday in May.
Alex, how are you the one who's late here? I don't understand.
You know, the comic companies send out a bunch of little like sample books of like what their company brings, and like either big titles or big like creators to kind of draw people in. And most comic stores do like sales to go along with it and everything. It's pretty much Christmas for comic people, and it's great. So we're each gonna pick like one of the free comic books and just like quickly talk about them, and what's bringing to the table.
I mean, I would absolutely love to talk about Spencer and Ryan Otley on Spider-Man.
Oh my god!
Because Ryan Otley was the penciler for Invincible, which is, as I have stated before, one of the best Cave
And
comics
I assume
to
you-
ever exist.
And I assume you will every week, probably.
More than likely.
It'll come
And
up.
Nick Spencer has written one of my favorite Spider-Man ancillary arcs in Eons, the Superior Foes
Superior
of
Foes.
Spider-Man.
Oh my god,
So
so good.
Nick Spencer knows his way around a villain or two, and knows his way around a Sinister Six or two. And I feel like Ryan Otley has been chomping at the bit to write the Sinister Six, or to pencil Spider-Man villains for his entire life. Like, you can feel
I mean,
his, like
when you look at the Invincible
white-knuckled
artwork,
intensity
when you look
every
at the
time.
when you look at the Invincible artwork, it just feels like that's what he's basing it on.
That's what I'm
This
saying.
dude probably grew up reading Spidey comics and like, I want to do that, and then he just
Ain't no
like
probably
took a
about
picture of
it,
Spuds
man.
and made Kraven the Hunter.
Oh yeah,
That's what
I
I'm
totally
saying. So,
forgot.
like, that's the best part, is that this
Spuds
Free
is good
Comic
one.
Book Day, the Spider-Man issue, is exactly what
Oh,
I wanted
that
out of
first-
both of it.
That first page was just a perfect balance of like the classic like quirky communist we get from Peter Parker, and just like this like him being Spider-Man, the lightheartedness
Yeah.
of Spider-Man.
Nick Spencer, Spider-Man.
It's
Nick
so
Spencer,
good.
Peter Parker. Nick Spencer, banter. Like, man, that guy
Say Nick
has
Spencer
a
again.
banter.
Nick Spencer.
No.
Thank you.
All right.
That was gonna bug me.
Like, he's just absolutely fantastic at it. Like, he knows the character, he knows the universe, and it looks like he really, for lack of a better term, wants to play in the universe. And Ryan Otley, like I was saying, you can feel his, like, love for literally everything he's doing. He's just, like, slinging ink all over the page.
I like
like,
to imagine when
both
they
hands, like, just knocking shit out.
I like to
like,
imagine when they brought-
dude, I'm drawing Spider-Man. It's the best day of my life.
I can
Like,
imagine
that
when
is
they brought
all-
this up to him. They just like sat down the contract guy. Hey Ryan, you want to write Spidey? He just signed it immediately. Didn't look. He just saw Spider-Man. He's just like, I'm in. I don't care. What? Is this exclusivity? I don't care.
Ryan, he's
Do you
also-
own me now? I don't care. Like,
200-foot
deal. What have I done? He just signs up for it. He's down with that.
I mean, dude, did the beginning through the end of Invincible, which
That's
is
a
no
lot of
mean
issues.
feat. Like, that is a lot of Robert Kirkman to have to deal with.
That's all of the Robert Kirkman.
Perhaps the
What I'm saying.
Kirkiest.
Ooh.
Lame.
I
Lame.
want my money back.
Man,
All right.
just flopping all over the place today, huh?
So next up, we can't. I think this is gonna be a common thing. We're gonna talk about Power Rangers. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Free Comic Book Day was a tie-in for Shattered Grid. It was mostly just like quick history of like the Rangers and how they got their powers, but it like shows that Zordon like is a sage to the Morphin Grid, and that there are three like what was it, lords or people who govern over them, the red, white, and blue, like the primary colors
It's
of the color spectrum. who are
red,
just-
yellow,
and
blue.
yeah.
You know what?
What is
Red, yellow, and blue, like the primary color spectrums of like the
magic
Rangers, just
color
constantly
spectrum.
shifting between every Ranger form, or just higher entities that live and are the Morphin Grid. And then they just talk about like the Power Rangers are they're worthy of these powers, and sometimes that everything doesn't go great, and you have to be evil and shank Rita Repulsa because Lord Draken just loves shanking people. He was given power through a magic dagger, and he's going to take life from that magic dagger. Because they finally finish conquering the world, and he just turns around and says, I know why Zordon picks teenagers. Because they're young and naive and malleable. But every child ends up outgrowing their parents, and he just shanks her.
what is doubly weird is like Tommy could have put an end to this fight a long time ago. If you just like
time
prison
ago.
shanked Rita Repulsa and like bounced.
Double showing the comics of Tommy Oliver. That's right.
Right, I forgot.
You did it to ourselves.
We don't have time for this.
The coolest part about this issue, I think,
Zordon has hands.
Zordon has hands. That's the weirdest part. He's got five fingies.
One for each Ranger.
Really? 5 and 5?
Yeah.
Weird.
So he's just, but no, just like how the three people just like shift through different Rangers.
That's my favorite thing.
It's so cool and it looks awesome.
My favorite thing is that the fact that it's the three primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Because in every Ranger series that ever happens, those are the three consistents.
Dino Charge, there is no Yellow Ranger, and I'm still furious about that.
Is there not?
Yeah.
Oh my
It's a
god,
joke.
Dino Charge broke the curve, and that's probably why time's all wibbly wobbly now.
What?
I think Dino Charge ruined everything. I think Dino Charge like broke Draken as a
Whoa.
person.
Dino Charge is great.
Almost every Power Ranger series, except for the one that had the billion Rangers for some reason, has those three constant colors. I just love this like in-depth look of like the lore and like the explanation of like the powers of the Morphin Grid, because we never get it because it's a kids TV show.
Yeah, that's my.
And us growing up are like, man, this is a fun show, but like we kind of want more. We want like the depth to the story we're never gonna get because it's a kids TV show. And then bam, comics, all the depth we want, and it's just like I'm
Comics is
drenched in
lore.
Power Rangers.
Proving
And
once
I just
again
don't know what to do
that
now.
Boom is just taking all
Boom.
of these things.
I think their name is apt. They just came in, dropped bombs on us, and we're just like, oh my god, what are you? And then they made it into a box.
They're like, we're Boom, bitch. Like Britney.
Oh, all right, I got it.
But anyway,
Moving on.
Spuzz, what was your free comic book day pick?
My pick is the Brian K. Vaughan book, Barry. Now, I'm
Another
about-
sideways book by Brian K. Vaughan.
in my description, I'm going to spoil how this book ends. Because,
Well, you already warned them about spoilers.
well, yeah, but like, first off, I hate reading this book like a calendar, but it
It's
turns
terrible, dude. I hate it. I hate reading books fucking vertically. Like, why would you do that?
because they're a monster.
He did it with Private Eye as well, except like when he released it regularly, it was actual book form. It was just in a stupid shape.
Yeah, that's annoying, but
It's
fine
hard to
with
store on
it.
a shelf.
Like that is
don't
passable.
Make me read a calendar. I hate calendars. Time is meaningless.
More to the point, like I don't understand why it works better like this
Yeah.
than like that.
Why?
I think this is like Brian K. Vaughan's like storyboarding and the artist's like style just really like play well with like the portrait styling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they wanted to be able to capture the most they could in a portrait style image than they could in like the vertical like.
There's no way.
Did I meant say portrait? I meant landscape.
Yeah.
Landscape. That's what I meant. I know my arts.
Well, when they release it, they'll release this in
Book form.
Yeah,
well,
but it'll
in
still be
in
like
the
it'll still be
exact-
landscapes.
in the exact same way as Private Eye was,
But
which will be great. But
so while I was reading this book, it started
Mhm.
off, and it's about this lady. She's a rancher, you know, in Texas, right on the border of Texas, and then immediately cuts to just only Spanish, where it takes place in Honduras, and everyone's speaking Spanish, and they're preparing to jump the border, and so it's going back and forth between these two people, back and forth, and like I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to be other side, but instead of Vietnam, it's going to be a more modern take on immigration?
Yeah.
And it was going back, and I was super hyped about that because Other Side is phenomenal.
Other Side is pretty great, man.
And so I was like, that's going to be awesome. Like, this page right here, so right here, it's just a page of, like, the big blue Texas sky, and lady talking to her friend, and then right underneath it is just, like, this super dark, rainy, shades of red, panel in Honduras where they're just, like, running from immigration. It just, like, contrasting so well. And you get through, and they finally meet each other, the two main characters, which is Lydia and Oscar.
Yeah.
They finally meet when Oscar shows up on her farm. Who's shocked? He's been kneecapped. That
Brian Michael Bendis was
she's
nearby.
like screaming at him. He's like, I don't speak English, but in Spanish, obviously. And she's like, I don't understand. He goes to reach for his book, which is a mystery, I assume. And she's
Maybe if you
panicking.
understood Spanish,
She's
you'd know.
freaking out. All of a sudden, white light. What's going on? It's aliens. It's an alien book. What? This is another side. This is an alien book where they have to learn to work together, but they don't speak the same language. That's the barrier. That's the barrier, everyone. It's amazing.
It's Brian K. Vaughan. Like never mind. I was gonna say after Runaways. But like Brian K. Vaughan just loves just like getting this like story about these two like groups, groups of people. It doesn't matter. They get together. They have to work towards a common goal, and then bam, aliens. Like, that's his antagonist in almost everything, and it works.
There is
it just
literally
fucking
not
works.
a bad Brian K. Vaughan book.
I haven't read
Like,
one. I haven't
not-
read
Whoa.
everything.
Not
Hey,
even a bad.
Saga is garbage. I can't believe I actually said that.
Yeah, seriously.
You're gonna
That's
burn.
a lie, everybody.
Yeah.
Saga, best
Saga-
book on the shelf.
Regardless.
We already
like,
talked about Saga. We'll talk about it again next week.
Let's
so.
always talk
Not
about
even
Saga.
not a bad.
We'll
Brian
bring it up
K.
every week,
Vaughan book.
guys.
There is not a mediocre Brian K. Vaughan.
No.
It
honestly.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Runaways, even though they're like, constrained by Marvel, but it felt very much like a weird indie book
Yeah,
in
Brian
the
K.
Marvel
Vaughan's
universe.
like a intro to the rest of the world was fucking Why the Last Man,
Oh
which
my
is the
God.
pillar like of Vertigo. Like you have your initial like Alan Moore, wizard hobo garbage with
Mhm.
like Saga of Swamp Thing and all that. And then you
Don
have
Constantine, well,
Transmetropolitan and Sandman and Preacher and Why the Last Man rounds out. Like those are the legs that indie comics with major label backing stand on. And then Brian K. Vaughan just went on to write the other 12 most influential books of all time.
If you look at like the 12 most
for no
influential,
good reason.
if you just look at the list, like the 12 most influential non like DC Marvel books, 7 out of 12 of them are just like fucking Brian K. Vaughan.
I don't even. I mean, I first off, I would hesitate to discount DC or Marvel books in
True.
that list. For
True. They just released 2 trades for Brian K. Vaughan. It was Batman by Brian K. Vaughan and DC Universe by Brian K. Vaughan.
The Batman one was okay. The DC Universe one was odd because it's like all weird books that he like was not
It's
really.
just like a
There's,
collection of like things
here's
he like
3 issues
kind of
of Green
glanced at.
Lantern and like an issue of Flash for no good
Those
reason.
aren't his.
and,
Those
like,
aren't like his big works. Those aren't
Yeah.
his real things. His real work is like,
Yeah.
not just his indie titles, but like the books he gets to like create from the ground up.
Well,
Did
I
you
mean,
just contradict yourself?
What?
Because you just said that Batman was mediocre. There's a mediocre Brian K. Vaughan book, John.
No.
No,
What
we're
I-
talking about
what I
mediocre
said
like.
Was that there's not a
Creative.
mediocre Brian K. Vaughan book? When I was saying was like in those collections where it's like, here's 3 issues of Batman for no good reason, like beginning, middle, like no beginning, just a little bit of the middle and no end. Like it's like hearing 3/4 of a joke. Where you don't hear the beginning and you don't hear the punchline, and it's just somebody in the middle being like, "No, because I went to go see my golfer friend."
That's all of my jokes. Are you trying to tell me that I'm not funny, John?
I mean,
That's the
I
coolest thing
may
anyone's
have
ever
mentioned
said.
And anyway, no. Besides Spuds being not funny, Barrier is another Brian K. Vaughan book that just immediately like blows you out of the water
I
because
thought
it
you were
sets
just-
you up for one thing and then just hits you with aliens.
I thought
And
you were
so,
just gonna be
check
like
out
Brian
Barrier.
K. Vaughan is a.
You should check out Barrier.
Check out Barrier when it hits
should
the
be
shelves.
coming out in a week or two. And then it'll come out real fast right after that. It should be coming out on a weekly basis. It may be a little too late for your comic people to order it right now, but definitely pick it up.
Check it out.
Ask him to order it in trade,
Yeah.
because I'm sure it's gonna be a dope trade, and you don't
Yeah.
have to fucking read it like a calendar.
The trades will be on the shelves within a month or two, I guarantee. But it's
Guarantee.
Brian K. Vaughan. Like, have you not read Pride of Baghdad? Like, what are you doing with your life? Like, get it
Oh,
together.
So that's some of like the just a few books from Free Comic Book Day. Probably pretty too late to go find any, but if you can find some of the past 2018 Free Comic Book Day books, check them out because there's a lot of really good ones in there. Now we're gonna close this thing out finally with upcoming books from the next 2 weeks because we do this bi-weekly and we forgot last time. May 9th and May 16th of 2018.
We're talking about May 9th right now.
We're gonna be talking about both of them because it's 2 weeks. But
Relax your horses.
what's your books? Pick your books.
My books? My book is Asola because I want to see if it gets bad. Looking at you, Brian.
Brandon Fletcher.
Brendan Fletcher. And so I want to see if Asola remains readable or if I have to curse Fletcher's name from the rooftops again because I'm a sour, sour grape man.
You do that so often, it's lost all meaning.
About. And
has-
what's your other ones? What's your other picks for the weeks?
My May 16th pick is got to be Rat Queens because I'm a big Rat Queens guy.
Because Rat Queens is awesome.
It's super spectacular, and I need to figure out where everybody's going. And if you don't read Rat Queens, you're dead to me.
No, you just gotta fight him in the squared circle.
I'm gonna fight you in the squared circle this Sunday.
Get your
Um,
shirt back on.
Also, side note. This is a side note. Speaking of Rat Queens, I just want to talk about how dope that Static Future one shot coming out this summer looks with the Shadowrun style cover, and that's the end of my segment. John, what are you looking forward to the next 2 weeks?
Upcoming is Exiles number 3. I absolutely love the Exiles. Always have, always will. Which is a like Blink-led team of a bunch of weird misfits from like alternate timelines in the Marvel universe, and you know what a
Specifically America.
continuity nerd I am. But I believe
You?
this issue is the premiere of Peggy Carter, Captain America,
Okay.
which I am down with.
Down.
And following that, there is going to be another issue of Tom King Batman, which everybody should be reading right now. God, if you are not reading it right now, hurry up and go read it. Everybody needs to be reading Batman right now.
So good. My pick for May 9th is No Justice #1. It starts. We all know how I feel about No Justice. We spent this entire episode talking about it mostly.
My God, it's going to be good.
So good. And then coming out May 16th, Fence #6. It's one of them boom books I've been talking about. It's pretty much, if you haven't watched Yuri on Ice, it's just Yuri on Ice,
Yuri on Ice
Off
with
the ice.
fencing.
but with fencing, and it's so good.
Yuri
I
off
absolutely.
the ice.
Yuri picks up a saber and they fence for a while, and it's great.
Rapier.
But we're talking
No,
about
saber.
we're talking about.
rapier.
I thought
No,
it was a foil.
saber.
Isn't fencing?
There's
Oh,
foil
it's a
fence. I'm not
foil.
gonna get into the logistics of fencing right now.
He
They
picks up
explain
the-
it in the book.
He picks
Pick
up
up
the
fence.
metal
It's
kind
so
of
good.
sword. Sometimes.
Oh,
Ooh.
I got you.
It's a wiener joke.
Right, I got it.
We didn't do any wiener jokes. this-
Chips Zdarsky's win, everybody.
Did we not do any?
No, we didn't talk about Chip Zdarsky's thing.
Like, not even with Kieran Gillen and the ham sandwich and Deadpool getting
That was
stabbed
Is
such
there a
in
wiener joke in that?
I feel
I
like
mean,
there should be.
you could find a way. You could find a way.
the-
Anyway, fence number 6. Pick up fence. It's really good. It's one of my favorite boom books coming out right now, next to like Power Rangers and pretty much every other boom book. I love it.
Also, New Challengers comes out that week.
New Challengers, another metal book that's gonna be new sweet. Scott Snyder picking up the New Challengers.
Fill that nice Fantastic Four shaped hole in your heart.
Oh,
Until Fantastic Four fills that nice Fantastic Four shape.
the Terrifics is filling up half of it. New Challengers is gonna get the rest, and then
What I'm saying.
it's gonna be blown out when Fantastic Four hits the shelves this summer.
8% of my heart.
All right,
And-
let's close this out. John, what did you learn this week?
Other people need to read more Warren Ellis. I do not, though. I read way too much Warren Ellis.
He's read all the Warren Ellis.
That's a good moral. Alex, what did you learn this week?
No matter what happens, everything comes back down to Power Rangers.
That's a good moral. What did I learn this week?
What did you
I had
learn
some-
this
He didn't learn how to read. That's for sure.
I never learned how to read. All right, goodbye, everybody.
week? That-
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.